everyone, welcome back to our live classroom. Today we are diving into some of the most influential thinkers of the 21st century. Jurgen Habermas, Manuel Castells, and the pioneer of critical thinkers. These aren't just academic names, they help us understand how public debates, communications, media, and power work in our everyday lives. Let's begin with Jürgen Habermas, one of the most prominent members of the Frankfurt School's second generation. Right. His concept of the public sphere, especially from his landmark book How Private Citizens Comes Together to Discuss Influential Political Actions. Habermas classifies the public sphere. From exam point of view, we know that public sphere, this term was given by Jürgen Habermas. So this public sphere can be divided into three parts. First is the micro level, second the meso level, third the macro national level. As far as micro level is concerned, we can say small group discussions, example families, friend circles. In the meso level, we can say the institutions like media houses or universities. And in the macro level or the national level, there are parliamentary debates, the national news media, and the public discourse across the state. So we can say that by Jürgen Habermas back in the year 1962, the public sphere, the structural transformation of public sphere, he has given three main public spheres: the micro level, the meso level, and the national level. In micro level, we can say that the people use a group discussion among the family friend circles. It's a micro level. In meso level, we have institutions like the media houses, the universities, the colleges, the schools. And in macro level or the national level, we have parliamentary debates, national new media, and public discourse across the state. However, he argues that the public sphere has decayed instead of fostering critical debate. Media today often manipulates, how public opinion influences by market forces and state control. That means media controls us, right? So they have stated the public sphere, the identification of public sphere has made it simple that media today manipulates public opinion. What people are thinking is manipulated by public. So Habermas moves beyond the critics in the theory of communication action, published in two volumes, first in 1981 in Germany and 1984 to 87 in English. The first was in German language and second in the English language. Here he emphasizes communicative rationality. What he emphasizes? The community rationality. The idea that truth emerges through dialogues, not domination. Truth always emerges through dialogue rather than dominations. Now from Habermas, what we will be studying? We will be studying to Manuel Castells. From Habermas, we will be studying Manuel Castells. Here, Manuel Castells, a Spanish sociologist who analyzed the information age in his trilogy. What are the trilogies? The first is the rise of national security, national network society, the rise of network society. Second comes the power identity. Third is the end of millennium. So in the trilogy of the Manuel Castells, a Spanish sociologist who analyzed the information age in his trilogy. What was it? It was the rise of network society, how network is being implemented, the power of identity, the end of millennium. Castells argues that our societies are structured around two poles. How our society was structured? Around two poles. The net, the global, the decentralized network is enabled by digital technologies, and the self. He has identified two poles of the structure of society. First thing is the net, that means the global decentralized network enabled by digital technologies. Then comes the self individuals, the identities often shaped through resistance, tradition, or new cultural movement. In Castells' vision, communication and power follow through network digital structures. They follow network digital structures and these things: social media, decentralized activism, and cyber politics. While Habermas focused on coffee house debates and newspaper in the Bourgeois era, Cassell is talking about networked individualism, where people in the ability to access, modify, and circulate information, according to Cassell. Now we will be talking about a bit critical theory key text, the key texts of critical theory. All right. So what was it or what is it? Let's wrap up with 6 cornerstone texts of critical theories. Works that critique modernity, capitalism, culture, and reason. First of all, we have to talk about Max Horkheimer, the traditional and critical theory, back in 1937. Then we have to talk about Adorno and Horkheimer, the dialect of enlightenment, in 1944. After that, we have Walter Benjamin, which is the work of art and age of mechanical reproduction, back in 1935. Then we have Herbert Marcuse, as we have discussed previous day, a one-dimensional man, in lecture number 9. It was in 1964. Then we have today's Jurgen Habermas, the knowledge and human interest, in 1968. Following with, we have the structural transformation of the public sphere. Now first, one by one, we will be talking about Mark Horkheimer's The Tradition and Culture and Critical Theory. What it states, it is a challenge positivism. It actually challenged positivism, process that theory must not just interpret the world but change it. And Adorno talks about the dialect of enlightenment. It also suggests that enlightenment reason had turned into domination. Cultural industry commodified through the kill industry, individuality. It's the culture, it's following the mass, it's the structure of following the mass. Then we have the Walter Benjamin's The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, back in 1935, where they are talking about the technology changes how we experience art, aura is lost, but mass reproduction can have democratic potential. Herbert Marcuse, one-dimensional man, in 1964 states that in consumer society, this society is becoming consumer society, right? Critical thinking is flattened. People are pacified by false needs created by media and advertising. They are creating false needs. Jürgen Habermas' Knowledge and Human Interest states that distinguishes technical, practical, and empathetic knowledge. Human interest shapes what we count as truth. That means the truth is shaped by human society. Habermas, the structured transformation of the public sphere, states that it revisited the concept of originally a space of rational debate. The public sphere is now colonized by the market and the state. So this was the key takes from the critical theory, right? Now, if we talk about certain examples, then what we can get, there are several examples. They tried to, they are the second generation of the German school, the school of Frankfurt School. All right, second generation of Frankfurt School. So here we can say that, here if we take about example of, let's take example of micro level. All right, so what is the example of micro level? Micro level is a WhatsApp group where school presents discussion, free hikes or curriculum decisions. In meso level, a local newspaper editorial discussion, civic issues in our city. And if we talk about the macro level or national level, it can be a televised election debate. Okay, a election debate which is in television, where candidates present their policies to the nation. Now, if we talk about the structural transformation of public sphere, in the 18th century, coffee house in London or Kolkata were public spheres for information based on politics. Today, the same thing we have in television debates, like the Big Front or Arnab Goswami's show. We know the nation wants to know, often becomes shouting matches, where dialogues is replaced by TRP driven conflict. It's the reality. So they are selling the news, it's a product. So Habermas says this is a transformation from democratic dialogue to commodified communication. What a lovely line. He has said that Habermas stated this fact, a transformation from democratic dialogue to commodified communication. Now the theory of communicative action, if we talk about the theory of communicative action, then we must know in a democratic classroom a teacher and a student discussed a topic, they listen and ask questions. This is communicative action. But in a lecture only classroom where only the teacher talks, try to understand. In a democratic classroom, a teacher and student discuss a topic, listens and asks questions. This is communicative action. But in lecture only classroom where only the teacher talks and imposes authority, then that's a strategic action based on control, not mutual understanding, where feedback is not necessary. Now Manuel Castells work of network, if we take, we will be talking about two examples of Manuel Castells example theory, where the net society. Suppose social movements like the Me Too, the Black Lives Matter, there are social movements, use network, the Twitter, the Instagram to mobilize globally even without centralized leadership. And in examples, let's take another example, which is the self. A person who rejects social media or chooses to live off-grid is asserting the self against the logic of the network. They are not following the trend. That means a person who rejects social media or chooses to live off-grid is asserting the self. So Castells says we now live in a bipolar world. Either we plug into the net or we defend ourselves. And if we talk about the critical theory key text, that is pretty much simple. So where we discuss that critical theory, the traditional theory by Horkheimer, the dialect and enlightenment by Adorno and Horkheimer, the knowledge and human interest by Habermas, the structural transformation of public sphere by Habermas, one-dimensional man by Marcuse, and the work of art and the age of mechanical reproduction by Walter Benjamin. Now, so it was it with today's lecture where we discuss this particular portion. So whether it's Habermas coffee house, Castells network, or Adorno's critique of desintensification, all these thinkers are asking the same thing. What is it? Can we be free in a society dominated by structures of control? Let's continue this discussion in the comments. I will be back soon with more insight from media theories, communication. As you guys can see, this full paper we will be discussing in short lectures. Tomorrow we will be talking about the next, that is the cultural study. So thank you for connecting at Ease No Media, where we discuss media related topics at ease.